Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is just a quick information type video. It's Friday today, and tomorrow is the Wessex Orchid Society Christmas do, which is a lunchtime do. So I'm not going to be able to film tomorrow, despite it being the 8th. So what I'll actually do is do my Everything in Bloom on the 8th, actually on Sunday, which is the 9th. It's not going to change much. I don't think anything is going to go missing or appear in one day. And I'll combine that with the Sunday chat, so it'll be a 2-in-1 on Sunday, once I've filmed it and got it processed, and we'll see where we go from there. You've heard me talk about a brilliant Cattleya book that I read while I had some quiet time at Rachel's, and it's an expensive book and it's quite rare because it's been out of print for a very long time, so there isn't any more stock, and it's a good book, so people have bought all the stock basically. But I managed to find a company that sort of specialises in finding rare and hard to get books, so I managed to get a copy. So this is it. It's just arrived. I can't open it because of copyright issues, you know. Reproduction and publication of any part of this book therein and all that cobblers, so I'll leave it shut. But it is a brilliant species Cattleya reference book. It hasn't got all the species in there. It's called the classic Cattleya, so it tends to go with the big and blousy types rather than the more obscure, if you see what I mean. But nonetheless, it's an excellent reference book. I'm going to enjoy owning it, as you know. I've already had a reasonable read at Rachel's, but now I can have a more thorough read and use it for reference. So it is, as a consequence of reading this book, become apparent that some species have a rest, and they don't all do it at the same time, and it's often not seasonal. It's to do with a point in their growth cycle. Some of the species mature their bulbs and then effectively have a rest, and then they bloom, whereas others have a rest after they've bloomed, and if that isn't there, it seems to inhibit the next lot of growths, and they're not as strong, and it may even stop it blooming. So these little bits of information are always handy to have. And as far as my channel's concerned, if you've got a Cattleya species, you can always ask, and I can always try looking it up. It doesn't work for hybrids, unless it's a primary cross, in which case it could still work. But once you get into the complex hybrids, you've effectively lost its breeding. It's long since gone. It's buried too deep. So trying to look up some of the species that might be included won't do a lot of good. But certainly at the species level it does. So it's now a reference document that I'm quite happy for other people to dip into. And if the information's in there, then I'm quite happy to pass it on. So anyway, that's the state of play with the videos. Talking about this Epidendrum nocturnum, it still hasn't opened. And one bit of advice, which actually sounds quite useful, something I never thought of, is stop handling the bloom. Stop bumping it around, because if it's going to self-pollinate, that can only aid it rather than avoid it. So I'm watering my mounts today, and they certainly won't get looked at again till Sunday. So although I've got to handle the plant today, that's it. It can then sit there and maybe that bloom will open and not self-pollinate. There's nothing else new on the go at the moment. My Dracula Bella spike is swelling at the end now, but it's still, knowing how the last bud went, that bud actually got quite large until some half-wit actually knocked it. It broke it off the spike basically, although it didn't detach, it just sort of didn't make it. So we'll try harder this time and not bash it around. But apart from that, there's nothing new going on, so I'll leave it at that for today. Just a bit of info on what's coming next, but no video tomorrow really. I've got some stuff to do in the morning, plus getting myself to look attractive, which can take all morning nowadays, and then I'll be out for the rest of the day. So I'll start filming again on Sunday, and hopefully I'll see you then. My turning this camera into a webcam to do quality live broadcasts isn't going to take place yet. The gadget I need that I've done quite a lot of reading about and research as to alternatives, and this is the one I want. And there are loads for sale on eBay. You know, there's 3 or 4 new ones come up almost every day for sale, but unfortunately it gets used for live gaming, so all the youngsters are after it. And they've obviously got more money than I used to have when I was young, because they're going for quite a large price. But with the frequency they're coming up, I will hit one eventually at a price that I think is sensible for a second-hand version of this particular gadget. So I'm working on it. I will get one eventually. I remember my particular lens that I wanted for my DSLR. Now, they came up on eBay very rarely, and it took me 6 months before I got one at a price I was prepared to pay. And the same will happen with this gadget, except for the fact the frequency is really high. So it might only take a couple more days, but I'll hit one at a reasonable price. I think the idea is to try and find one where the bidding ends in the middle of the day on a weekday, when everybody's out at work or college or uni or things like that. Trouble is, everybody's got a phone nowadays, haven't they? Anyway, I'm working on it. As soon as I get the gadget, we'll give it a try, and then we can go back to doing some better live broadcasts. And I won't be inhibited by filming after it's got dark, because this camera works quite well with the lights on. So we'll see how we go with that, but that's a progress update on that, like there isn't any yet. But coming soon, I will get there. I'm determined, and I'm keeping my eye on eBay frequently. I have a look at all the ones that are newly listed, and depending on their starting price, stick them in my watch list, and then as they come up to the day of bidding, I stick my high bid in. And at the moment, I just keep getting outbid by silly amounts of money. You know, if a unit costs 100 quid brand new, why are you paying 85, 90 quid for a second-hand one? You're an idiot. You know, the idea of getting a used one is that you get it at quite a reduced price, often without its original box. So I'm not prepared to go mad and pay silly money for this. If I was going to pay that sort of money, I'd just buy a new one. And then you've got the guarantee and everything. But I'm working on it. We shall see how we get on. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.